Ladies and gentlemen, Ja'Kai Douglas, a.k.a. Agent Zero, is fully back and with the team, fully practicing, and he's expected to be available against the Clemson Tigers this weekend. All that and more on today's edition of Locked On Seminoles. Let's ride.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before because Bet Online is where the game starts. And as always, I am joined in the stream yard by my one and only compadre, Mr. David Wise. Davey, what's going on, my guy? You look well rested.
Yeah, definitely well rested. Drake, I've had some time to, not be on such high alert from these last 2 weeks. Let's hard reset everybody. Second half of the schedule. We're here for you. We're going to get through this.
We're going to get through because we are Locked On Seminoles, but always we are Noles Anonymous, your favorites, Florida State Seminoles support group, because we are here whenever the FSU teams let y'all down. But today, as the top of the hour, we're discussing Ja'Kai Douglas' return to the team in the first segment, and we will remaining do a Clemson preview on the offensive and defensive side of the ball for the rest of the show. Dave, let's start off with the big news. Ja'Kai Douglas, a.k.a. the most underrated, underused player that we've said ad nauseum on this program, is back with the team. He's fielding punts. He's hitting wheel routes. He's back in the game. What do you make of the return of Ja'Kai Douglas, and how important of an impact is this to this team?
Well, I think, first of all, it depends on the way the coaches intend to use him. It's tough to say that we don't need more help at wide receiver, because having Ja'Kai Douglas and hopefully eventually Winston right back, that's only going to add a dimension. Obviously, people are kind of frustrated, I think, with the wide receiver room after this last game. It's one of those incidents of recency bias where you think you hit every red light because it just happened to you, but really you don't hit every red light. The receivers haven't sucked. We have one of the best receiver units in the country this year. It's unfortunate how they performed in this last game, but we don't, I think, have that Ja'Kai Douglas currently in the mix. Last year, and he's been a specialist at that kind of wheel route about creating space out of the backfield, and there's no one that can really cover him. You put a linebacker on him, they're going to get burnt. You put a corner on him, he can get physical. He's good. I think anything we can do at this point, after seeing that second half of football, to give Jordan Travis more weapons and to, add to the collection of receivers we have, is nothing but a net positive. And I mean, you don't need to look much further than the fact that he's averaging almost 18 yards a reception on his career. You can always use that in your offense, and we can here.
No, I mean, that's perfectly fine. And also, it's kind of nice to see him come in when we have Treshaun Ward, who he did have. I don't think it was a super intense surgery, but I do expect him to be out for some time. And I do think missing Treshaun Ward, he is the best back of those three to me, because he has the best patience and the best vision. You'll see at times where Trey Benson and Lawrence Toafili, while they have the skills, Trey Benson is one of those players that needs a little time to basically, he's like a choo-choo train, chugga to get the full speed. Lawrence Toafili, he's still acclimating to basically having that vision downfield. So Ja'Kai Douglas actually being an extra weapon out of the backfield. I mean, we saw him last year against Notre Dame and against Miami, that wheel route is patented by him. No one runs that better on this team than him. And he's someone that this offense has been explosive all year, minus the past two games. And he is the definition of an explosive athlete. So come back in the lineup is a boost to the wide receiver room. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little more names come back to the room very, very shortly.
That's why I said it kind of depends on how the coaches use him, because if he can be used in a running back capacity, that's more, I think, of an immediate impact, depending on how effective he is, even if it's just to have somebody else in the rotation. We have Trey Benson, obviously, feel good about that. We have Lawrence Toafili. So we have two good options. But
Rodney Hill, too, your boy. You're the one.
I was just going to say Rodney Hill. Those are two good options. Rodney Hill is a bit of an unknown. I think he's going to have a good Florida State career. I don't know if he's ready to give the kind of contribution we're going to need in a game like Clemson. But depending on how long Treshaun Ward is out, yeah, a guy like Rodney Hill is going to be needed because we don't just rely on two running backs. And that's why it'll be interesting to see if Ja'Kai Douglas is able to, or if the coaches are able to use him in that capacity to spell like Toafili, for example. So that'll be very interesting to see. The wide receiver room, we have a lot of guys in there who have been super productive. It never hurts to have one more, but yeah, that running back room, that'll be interesting to keep an eye on.
I think so too, and also I think he'll even to me, I think more of his impact is going to be basically as like a decoy or distraction actually when he does line up in the backfield because when you see him in the backfield, you have to account for him. Yeah. And we've basically been saying that with Treshaun Ward being gone, like now you're going to have to be able to account for Ja'Kai Douglas in the backfield. Will he do the wheel route? He actually also was pretty decent last year at pass blocking and run blocking too as well in the backfield. So then I'll open up the game for a Johnny Wilson, a Micah Pittman, as well as a Ontario Wilson, where we need this offense to basically come back to where they were for the first 4 games. Like I understand that NC State has a very, very elite defense. It's a very good defense. But from when we saw from second half, and no elite offense or even a subpar defense would have been good against us at all whatsoever. So to me, overall, the return to Ja'Kai Douglas is probably almost as important, if not as more important than the return to Robert Scott from last week.
Right. And just something interesting to note, like last year, for example, Ja'Kai Douglas's 2 most effective games were in big moments against Notre Dame and against Miami. So I'll always take a guy like him that steps up in big moments against better competition than, necessarily somebody who will throw up 200 yards against like James Madison or something. So yeah, we got Clemson coming up and we have Miami and Florida on the back half of the schedule. In addition to somebody will say Syracuse is good, I'm sure. But
they are good, Dave.
We're gonna need guys who can serve in a capacity out of the backfield, and there is no one better at this point to have healthy than Ja'Kai Douglas.
There is no one better in this moment, and also like you're saying, Dave, that he actually is probably one of the more clutch players. He steps up to the moment when it comes up, and Dave, you know who basically helps us out in picking out the clutch and deciding moments to kind of basically bet on and play on?
I know you're gonna tell me.
All right, it's our friends over at Bet Online. Folks, Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all-day sports action. And as y'all know, Dave and myself, well, we didn't play primarily football. We were thrilled and we played a lot of baseball growing up. And right now, it's the best time of the year. It's October. Fall ball is here. The what would you call it, Dave? The boys of fall, basically overall, because about baseball playoffs. Right. So to me, I'm going to pick a game right here, Dave. As you automatically is the Fade Dave segment of the week of the day of the millennium. Dave.
Don't do it.
You are a Yankees fan. What are you pointing to? Oh, there you go. That shoulder, folks. Dave has no idea where his left and right is if you're listening to this on the audio platform. Right now, the New York Yankees on October 13th have Nestor Cortez going up against Shane Bieber and the Cleveland Guardians. They are a -1.5 favorite at +165, whereas the Cleveland Guardians are +1.5 underdogs at -190. Dave, what are you taking for this game?
Great. I think you already know where I'm going with this game. The Yankees are going to sweep in the series. I was hoping that maybe I could go to the game on Monday night. There's not going to be a game on Monday night. This is going to be an easy one. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Yankees are necessarily going to win the World Series. I wish Brian Cashman would find some more pitching, but here we are. We're good enough to beat this. We're good enough to beat this Guardians team.
So I disagree with you. I'm actually going to be riding with Shane Bieber and also riding with the best player probably in the American League, not named Aaron Judge, and that is going to be Jose Ramirez, third baseman over there from the Dominican Republic. So, folks, if you want to fade Dave, take the Cleveland Guardians at +1.5. Also, I'm taking them because my fiance is from Cleveland. She's a Guardians fan. So take the Guardians at +1.5 or ride with Dave. He's a little better with the baseball picks with the New York Yankees and Nestor Cortez, the pride of Hialeah, Florida. Shout out 305. So take the New York Yankees at -1.5 to trail Dave into battle. Okay, Dave?
Yeah.
Since basically this is a preview show, that's what we're doing today. We're still trying to work on the Know Your Foe series for Clemson this week. We most likely will be bringing on someone else that actually covers, college football as a whole. So Clemson, there's a big game on Saturday. It's at 7:30. Most likely, if we had beaten NC State, game day would be coming. But you know what? Stuff happens. So you want to go offense side of the ball first or the defense side of the ball first when we do the preview?
Let's go with our offense against their defense. So we can end on a high note here.
Okay, perfect. So then you know what? I'm going to give the ball to you since I know you've been scouting Clemson for a little bit longer than I have. Why don't you take us away, and I'm giving the ball to you as we speak.
Okay, so guys, we don't need to tell you this. I feel like you already know. Clemson has a very good defense. I hate that, but they do. They're a top
It's
10
very good.
defense, no matter how you look at it. They don't really have much of a weakness. They're just as good at run defense as they are pass rush. Their coverage is good, albeit not quite as good as their run defense. Their tackling is above average. They're just a damn good defense. And of course, they're getting Brian Brissy back. Don't get me started. I don't think he's that good, but
he's just he's okay. Dave is a hater for that comment. I want to say that for myself on the record because I don't stand with you on that statement.
He's all right. He's nothing special. But anywho, some people think he is, and they're getting him back. There's no easy way to attack this Clemson defense. That NC State defense we just played was quite good, and this Clemson defense is appreciably better. So that's not great. The question is how you beat Clemson with our offense. It's going to be tough giving Jordan Travis time to pass in this game. The running game is going to be tough to come by with Treshaun Ward out. So that leaves to me an obvious answer of how you attack this game.
Pray,
and pray that Jordan Travis runs the ball. Because Jordan Travis running the ball, I think in that last game caught NC State a bit by surprise. Like if you had watched the tape on him this year, you hadn't seen much of it. You hadn't seen any of it really. And he was very effective at it. And without Treshaun Ward in the lineup, you got to replace that production. It's not going to come from, I don't think, just Trey Benson and Lawrence Toafili. Jordan Travis being the quarterback and running the football adds a dimension to the offense that requires the defense to account for it. Takes a guy kind of focusing on Jordan Travis running the ball, which makes their defense slightly less multidimensional. That's what we need to accomplish in this game. And look, we're going to have matchups that are favorable to us. Johnny Wilson is always a matchup problem. Like nobody has a 6'7" DB. So the passing plays should still be there, but it's going to be really hard to be efficient against this defense. I don't think the game plan can be just, hope we're getting a couple yards here and there and converting third downs. Third downs aren't where we want to be against Clemson. They're one of the best teams in the country in opposing team third down percentage. They only allow first downs on less than 30% of third down plays run against them. That's not good, Drake. Would you like to guess where we are in third down conversion percentage on offense, though?
I'm going to assume that third down conversion percentage, you said?
Yep.
I want to say we're in the top 50.
We're in the top. We're almost top 25. That might surprise some people. Yeah. 46% of our third downs we're converting. A lot of them have felt unsustainable. Like a lot of those longer third downs. The fact that we continue to convert them means they're obviously not unsustainable. But I just don't think this is the kind of game where you're going to be able to get away with efficiency, where your offensive line has struggled, where your running game is going to be down its best player. You're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to hit some chunk plays. And so you're going to have to, like I said, you're going to have to get Jordan Travis some runs and just make them worry about it, if nothing else, to give the receivers space, because it's going to be hard to come by.
And I think one thing that we also kind of broach on too is that a lot of us watched the Wake Forest Clemson Tigers game, right?
Yeah.
Where basically that entire Clemson secondary was torched by Sam Hartman. Well, folks, Sam Hartman and Wake's offense is very good.
Yeah.
And also people forget that Clemson's, I think, secondary was down to their third strings across the entire way. Yeah. Which to me it's kind of like misleading, because also Clemson is getting some of their players back in secondary. I know they're already getting the entire defensive line back. I think Xavier Thomas had his first snaps last week, and I think he had 2 pressures and a sack in 6 snaps total. That defensive line, we might honestly need to take a life insurance policy on Jordan Travis before his game actually starts. But I mean, I agree with you. I think this is where a game that Jordan needs to actually commit to running the ball himself, or at the very least extend the play, where the secondary for Clemson is solid, but it's not the Clemson of what we're used to where you had Tavon Mullen, you had AJ Terrell. Like, those players aren't in secondary anymore, because now they're on the defensive line with Brian Brzee, KJ Henry, Xavier Thomas, and Tyler Davis. So to me, this is a game that's going to come down to Jordan needs to show up and show out and basically be able to be both of what people thought Anthony Richardson was going to be at Florida, the dynamic runner along with the elite accurate passer. And we've seen throughout basically the first 4 games, Jordan is fully capable of making those throws.
Yep.
Hell, the first half of NC State, he was awesome. He was throwing dimes. I even texted you and Max that, man, if I was Jordan, I would go over and slap Malik McClain, slap his player for dropping the ball right now, because basically they were letting him down a little bit. But we don't need to see, basically, for Jordan, I don't want to see a reversion back to that second half where we kind of saw that he let the emotions get a little bit of the best of him. And also you basically saw the sort of turmoil between him and Mike Norvell. So to me, with this offensive game plan, we need to have Jordan Travis run the ball, or also supplemented with a sort of extending the play and finding a Johnny Wilson or a Micah Pittman, who eventually, in my opinion, will get open. And also hit on the Lawrence Toafili and Chicago explosive plays, because this team needs to hit an explosive plays to even keep close with Clemson.
Yeah, not to put too much pressure on Jordan Travis. I mean, it's not like we do anyways, but we can only win this game if he plays that type of game you just mentioned. If Jordan Travis is the quarterback that he was the first 4 weeks, this is so unfair. But add in the rushing dimension you got in that NC State game, meaning basically play a perfect game. Florida State can win this game, no problem. Not no problem, but more than capable of winning this game. It's just going to require, I think to win this game will require a heroic effort by Jordan Travis. I don't think there's any way around that. There's an easy to see domino effect of why. Drake, where do you think Clemson ranks in opponent yards per rush attempt?
Top 5.
Top 2. 1.9 yards per rush.
Who's number 1?
That would be James Madison, ironically.
Okay, low-key, the Dukes are pretty good. Dukes are pretty good, okay?
Look, Clemson's rush defense is something serious, and their interior defensive line is getting an addition this week. So if we had Treshaun Ward, that would be a problem. So it's going to be hard to open up our traditional running game, which will make it more difficult to pass if we're not succeeding in the traditional run game. You could see easily why the formula has to be there for Jordan Travis to take the game over. He's going to need to run the ball, which will open things up in the passing game, which will open things up in the running game. It's a domino effect of things that have to happen, but it can happen.
It can happen. I think also that now Jordan, I talked about last year where like the game against Clemson to me was very winnable. And I do think that there was a lot of plays where Jordan did keep you in that game, but there's a lot of smaller plays. If you look at it in sort of a microscope, that Jordan did kind of like not let you down, but if he was a better quarterback, he would have made those intermediate and out throws. The Jordan Travis this year would have made all those throws, and probably if we had, have a time traveling machine, take Jordan, put in the game last year, we probably would have won that game easily. Because also, I mean, they said the last year's score was 30-20. People forget the fumble from last year. That game was a lot closer, and we probably should have won that game. Where I think that's where me and you were kind of, simpatico on that remark. So to me, with Jordan, I don't know if a heroic effort is what we need, but I think we need something pretty damn close overall. And then we'll talk about defense next, real quick. But I do think that basically this is a game where Jordan does need to step up back to what we saw against LSU.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is the offensive line has struggled, but despite how good Clemson's defense is and how good their defensive line is, there's some hope to be had here. This may surprise a lot of people to hear. Clemson's defense is only 58th in sack percentage, 6% of plays. For reference, Florida State is 16th. We get a sack on almost 9% of plays. It doesn't feel to me like we've gotten some ridiculous number of sacks, but we're significantly higher than Clemson in sack percentage. So it's not necessarily like Jordan will be spending the whole day on his back, but still, he's going to need to have a remarkable performance.
And that's why I think the addition of Robert Scott, like when we saw him against NC State, he actually did look fully healthy. He didn't actually look bad at all. I think he actually probably was one of our best grade linemen. And also, if you looked overall, our pass blocking grades against NC State actually were super high. I don't think we had anyone below 69. Nice overall, actually, per PFF. So to me, the offensive line, so long as they keep Jordan, standing up, I think Jordan actually will be able to have time, keep us in the game, and also I'm not guaranteeing an upset, but I do think there is an avenue for victory to be had here. And then now let's go over and talk about the defensive side of the ball, where FSU needs to stop a rolling DJU and a Clemson offense. Okay, Dave, we are back, and now we're at the end of the show. Now we're flipping over the side of the ball. When Clemson has the ball, first off, DJU, different player from last year. Yep. He looks immensely better. Will Shipley, has started coming around too, but also think the weapons are helping DJU because if you watch the Georgia Tech game, you definitely saw that a lot of those passes were drops. So it was a little misleading to say that DJU was sort of bad that game. So Dave, defensively for FSU, what do we need to do to stop this Clemson offense, or simply is it something that basically is a lot more attainable than what we just discussed about the against Clemson's defense?
Yeah, this is not nearly as unfavorable a matchup as some might think, and I don't think Florida State's defense is getting enough credit for how good it's been overall and in a lot of similar respects to Clemson. Um, Clemson's offense only averages not only, they average 5.8 yards a play. I say only because that's only 48th in the country. So it's not like there's some elite team in moving the football on a yards per play basis. And that's good for Florida State because, again, top 25 in yards per play allowed at 4.8. So something's going to give there. And I like our defense in that matchup. The part of it that scares me is Clemson's third down rate. I got to talk about this. They convert half their third downs.
Really?
Half. They're number 12 in the country in third down conversion percentage, and we're only 59th in third or opponent third down conversion percentage at 37.7. So Clemson is good at converting third downs, and I would have thought, and I would have thought before seeing that look, we've done a great job this year. I've said this so many times, but we continue to do it at keeping things in front of us. Things really don't get behind this defense. It gets frustrating to fans at times because it is a lot of a bend but don't break defense, where you'll see us give up some first downs and then we'll hold them to a field goal. And frankly, the coaching staff I think is okay with that because if teams are only scoring 3 every possession or every other possession, we should be able to do better than that. Truly, we should. But for this Clemson offense, you can't let them get explosive plays on you. You have to force them to do what somehow they've been remarkably good at, which is converting third downs. And the way you're going to win that matchup is to keep those third downs longer. Clemson's wide receivers, we talked about this before the season. They're nothing special. This is a wide receiver unit that I expect our DBs to be able to handle, not shut down, but handle. So if you're able to shut that run game down early and force them to throw the ball, DJU has been better, but he's also still had plenty of erratic throws this year. So if you force him to some bad decisions and force him to revert to the old DJU, that can turn the game around pretty quickly, especially if you're able to then, go on offense and score and force them to play from behind. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you have to shut down that run game of Clemson. And then from there, force them to beat you through the air. I'm not saying their run game's great. It's not. But if they have that going, it's going to open up the passing game, and it's going to be easy picking because our defense will probably end up spending too much time on the field as they convert third down after third down after third down, and that can't happen.
Yeah, when you look at DJU this year, he has 1,462 yards to 14 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Damn, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
The QBR is 74.9. Last week actually was one of his worst games against Boston College, which is a defense that we kind of were actually able to shell. He was only 18 of 31 for 220 yards, but that's also, if you watch that game, the first half, you kind of can tell a little bit discombobulated. The second half, they actually went out of their way to kind of prove a point and basically get ready for the next one. So overall, to me, I do think that mainly these wide receivers, they're like a nice way to put it. Yeah, you're right. They're nothing special. Like they're still decent wide receivers, but there's no longer the Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Ross players to kind of worry about it. And also, in my personal opinion, I think DJU, like the way he's evolved and taking a step forward this year, actually makes them look a lot better than they actually are. And then you have Will Shipley, who isn't your Travis Etienne back, nor your CJ Spiller, but he's someone that FSU, and I think we need to harp on this more with defense, they need to tackle the first time they touch him. Will Shipley is someone that after the contact, that's where most of his yards come from because he is a big boy. If you watch him, he reminds me a lot of that one single season where Peyton Hills was able to get on the Madden cover. He's someone that's hard to bring down, big, strong, burly, and loves to initiate contact. So to me, with FSU, we need to basically be physical. That we need to out physical Clemson, which is a very, very tall task to ask for these kids. But I think with the length of the outside, like to me, I want to see Azariah Thomas have a lot more snaps this game. I want to see our longer, bigger corners kind of be physical up front. And to me, I think Jared Verse maybe actually be able to play a little more in this game. I want him to be harassing DJU in the backfield.
I'm glad you said that. That brings me to my final point here. I think A, you need Jordan Travis to be on his A game, but B, I think another or additional way to win this game, you got to get to DJU. Clemson's only 39th in quarterback sack percentage. They allow sacks on over 4% of plays. Again, I said this earlier, we're 16th in the country in team sack percentage. We're sacking quarterbacks on almost 9% of plays. I'm not saying we're going to sack him on 9% of plays, but if we can rattle him, if we can rattle DJ and he's getting off schedule and he's making erratic throws or he throws an interception, that's what's going to be needed to win this game. I'm not saying you have to get lucky. I think Florida State can win this game without necessarily getting lucky, but you're going to have to pressure DJU, make him make bad decisions, and then you're going to have to turn right around and take advantage of those. But that is doable for a defensive line that's done so well in getting the quarterback, despite missing guys here and there throughout the season.
No, I mean, I completely agree with you overall with that. Oh. I think you're getting a phone call there, Dave?
Nope. That was weird.
That was odd. But no, I mean, I'm completely agree with you with that. And also, I think with this offensive line for Clemson, it's a solid offensive line. People remember, I think, Will Putnam, the kid that I know FSU was recruiting a few years ago, along with Jordan McFadden and Marcus Tate. But overall, to me, that this is where the defensive line, I think, needs to take another step forward. Last week, we kind of saw them kind of not bully, but they kept us in the game against NC State, especially, Joshua Farmer and Patrick Payton, seeing how they're kind of evolving and developing into these star players, aka Odell and Java Puchis. Those two guys are doing their job and earning the paycheck. But to me, we need to make DJU's life uncomfortable because somewhere in there is the old DJU, the bad DJU, the one that was not having fun and was very unconfident. Unconfident is that word? Unconfident? Non-confident?
Sure. Yeah, let's say yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send this Webster's for a introduction for that. But yeah, we need to be able to basically make his life uncomfortable. That's all you gotta do. Make him not confident basically playing the game and force him out of the pocket. Because if you saw last year a lot, when teams did that, DJU was very adverse to actually running the ball, even though he has that bigger body. And he actually isn't that slow, but he's also someone that's harder to bring down. So to me, move the pocket, disrupt his flow, get the tempo down, and to me, that's how you win this game. That's a tough ask. It's a tall order to ask of this team, but that's basically the only way I can see an FSU victory this Saturday is if we go to that game plan.
Yeah, like we said, Jordan Travis has to be on his game. You got to pressure DJU. I think the third option here is you just got to win the turnover game. Florida State and Clemson.
Oh yeah, yes, I'm lucky. This will be great.
we're tied in turnovers per game and turnovers forced per game, and Clemson is among the top of the country in turnover margin per game. We're a little lower on the list. So if you win the turnover battle, that's an easy way to win this game. I don't think if you get 2 and they get 1, that's how you do it, but necessarily. But if we can protect the football and force them to make some stupid decisions, that's just less possessions for them. That's more possessions for us. And from what we've seen the last couple of weeks, I think we need those extra possessions and we need those extra plays. We got to keep the defense off the field as long as we can, and that will most likely turn to points. So yeah, Jordan, do good. Pressure DJU. Win the turnover game. 3 keys to victory.
Dave's 3 keys to victory, because I do believe the turnover game, we're going to need a little bit of luck. Like, folks, Clemson is the number 4 team for good reason, and they look like the Clemson of old right now, kind of how dominating they're being overall. But it is October, a.k.a. Shocktober. Spookier things have happened. They're coming to Doak at night in prime time. We're allowed to... What's up?
Kirk Herbstreit's calling the game.
Kirk Herbstreit's calling the game. Shout out to Big Nole with that we're 7-0 when he's calling the games, which is a lie, but that tweet was hilarious. I wish I was able to share it on here. But no, to me, spookier things have happened. We're allowed to upset these teams and win the damn game, especially when these teams are obviously more talented than us. We're outmatched, but listen, we're allowed to win. We want to win, and sure enough, I do think there's a solid avenue for us to win. But Clemson at -3.5 might be a good take for y'all. But folks, thank you all so much for your love and support. As always, we love having you here. We got to do this each and every single day because y'all keep on coming back. This is Dave's last show for the week because he is going on vacation for a few days. But we do have the walkthrough coming up on Saturday. We're probably going to record one probably right after this, or simply He'll record solo. I'll add into what I say later on. But Dave, let the folks know how much you love them. Let them with some parting words about Clemson and the podcast and YouTube instructions.
Guys, I can't tell you how much I love you because I don't know how to put it into words, but just know that I do. And since I love you so much, please find our podcast anywhere you get your podcast: Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Apple, or Google Play, Apple. And for the YouTube, please give us a like if you like the video. We do appreciate those. Subscribe to the channel, ding the little bell at the top. It'll turn on your notifications and let you know when our videos drop. And leave us a comment. What did we miss? What did we get right? What did we get wrong? We always read them, and we love your feedback. Please give it to us.
Please give it to us, folks. And as always, we'll be back here as soon as possible. I'll try my best to get a Know Your Foe for this week. But, hey, it's Clemson week. It's hate week. F everything orange, because this will be the last game up until the bye week. And then during the bye week, I am reaching out to other FSU personalities that come on to the show for the entirety of the week. Please comment below who you want to see come on and chop it up with Dave and myself. But with that being said, that was Dave. This was Drake. And we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody, and beat Clemson. He has a button. Oh, no.